Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tebo Kharani, and I'm here to talk about the citric acid cycle, also known as the Krebs cycle. So, what is the Krebs cycle? The Krebs cycle is a metabolic pathway inside of the matrix. What does the Krebs cycle help with? It helps to synthesize NADH, and it also helps for the production of amino acids. Where does it occur? It occurs inside of the mitochondria of a eukaryotic cell and inside of the cytocell of a prokaryotic cell. Coming from the preparatory reaction, which talks about pyruvate, and pyruvate comes from the glycolysis of the glucose. This is where the 6 carbon compounds are split down into 2, and then we get 3 carbon compounds of pyruvate. Now I'm going to explain the Krebs cycle. Now let's start with the first step. In this first step, what occurs is oxidation, where pyruvate is oxidized into acetyl CoA. This process occurs under an enzyme called pyruvate dehydrogenase. Okay, so what do we get from this process? So the things that we get from this process are CO2, and then we get NADH. Okay, moving to the second step, where acetyl CoA, which has 2 carbon compounds, it combines with oxaliacetate, which has 4 carbon compounds, and this all occurs under an enzyme called citrate synthase. Once we combine these two, what we're going to get is citrate, and citrate contains 6 carbon compounds. Moving to the third step of this process, we're going to talk about citrate being converted into isocitrate. So what occurs here is that citrate is isomerized into isocitrate, and this occurs under an enzyme called aconitate. Good. Now we move into the fourth step of the Krebs cycle. In this step, isocitrate is oxidized into alpha ketoglutarate under an enzyme called isocitrate dehydrogenase. Now what we get from this fourth step is that NAD is converted into NADH, and from this step CO2 is also produced, and we get alpha ketoglutarate, which has 5 carbon compounds. So in this fifth step, we're going to talk about ketoglutarate being converted into succinyl by an enzyme called alpha ketoglutarate. So in this fifth step, CO2 is what? It's released, and NAD is converted into NADH. Now let's not forget that alpha ketoglutarate has 5 carbon compounds, and then succinyl has what? 4 carbon compounds. Moving to the sixth step of this Krebs cycle, we're going to talk about succinyl CoA being converted into succinate by an enzyme called succinyl synthase. Succinyl CoA synthase. Now in this sixth step, what is being produced is GTP molecules. Moving to the seventh step of the Krebs cycle. This is where succinate is converted into fumarate, and this all occurs under an enzyme called succinate dehydrogenase. Succinate dehydrogenase. Now in this process, QH2, it's used for the production of what? It's used for the production of FADH2. Now this is step number 8, where fumarate is converted into malate, and this occurs under an enzyme called fumarase. This enzyme is called fumarase. Moving to the step number 9, which is the last step of this Krebs cycle process. Now this step occurs under an enzyme called malate dehydrogenase. Malate dehydrogenase. And in this step, malate is converted into oxaloacetate. It's converted into what? Oxaloacetate. And in this step, what we get is that NAD is converted into NADH. Now I'm going to explain the purpose of this Krebs cycle. The Krebs cycle occurs twice. So what we get from the Krebs cycle is a production of what? 6NADH. And what do we also get? It's 2FADH2. FADH2. And we also get 2 GDP atoms, GDP molecules. And we also get what? 4 carbon dioxide compounds. 4 carbon dioxide compounds. Now that is all for our video. Thank you for watching the video.